Story 1. Falling on Deaf Ears. It's no wonder everyone decided to name that big hill after me, Gordon declared one day, completely unprovoked. I am the biggest and most grand engine this railway has ever seen. A big, grand engine should have a big, grand place named after him. You little engines wouldn't understand. The engines all just smirked. Gordon didn't know that they only nicknamed the hill after him because he had gotten stuck on it a few days ago. Unfortunately for them, this action only made Gordon more boastful than ever. As Gordon would hurry down the main line, he would blow his whistle loudly at everyone he saw. "Make way! Make way!" he would shout. "An important engine is coming through." Back in those days, Gordon's whistle was very high-pitched. It was a shrill noise that went right through your ears. Gordon, however, was proud of his whistle. To him, it meant that everyone knew that he was coming. Two other engines in the shed, Henry the green engine and Madison the red engine, were complaining about it one day. "He don't know when to stop," grumbled Madison. "I was waiting at Marin today, and he came down the other side of his hill, shouting about how grand and important he is." "I know," cried Henry. "I was having a rest earlier, when Gordon rushed through, blowing that shrill thing of his. I was so surprised I nearly jumped off the rails." "Ugh, he's such a loudmouth," declared Madison, ironically being the loudest one in the yard at that moment. "The whole Gordon's Hill thing was just meant to be a joke, but he's taken it too far." At that moment, Gordon came into the shed. He'd heard everything. "You just don't understand the importance of a big engine such as myself," he scoffed. "An engine of my class and caliber must always let people know when they are coming, and we don't get so easily offended by silly teasing." "Well, it's a little bit pathetic that a big express engine can't handle a few trucks up a hill." Gordon let off steam crossly. "Oh, so much for not being easily offended," Madison jeered. Madison and Henry laughed together, while Gordon muttered to himself and rolled to the back of his shed. I'll show them. The next morning, Gordon's coaches were happily resting at the big station. The passengers were all boarding the train, and the guards and porters bustled up and down the platform. Everyone was just getting on with their usual morning routine. Beep! And then came Gordon, snorting into the station and letting off huge clouds of steam. Everyone on the platform jumped. A young boy covered his ears, a station porter fell over in surprise, landing on the baggage trolley, and a grown man fainted. The coaches were very cross and started to twitter angrily, but Gordon ignored everyone. "They must know that I am the premier engine of this line," he declared to himself. His driver and fireman sighed. Gordon had only been on the railway for a few months, but they were finding this engine to be quite the handful. Soon, once everyone had calmed down and boarded the train, it was time for Gordon to leave. He blew another loud whistle as he huffed out of the station and towards the open line. Gordon's journey was not very pleasant. He whistled at everyone he saw. People and engines would shout crossly at him, livestock would go running in their fields, and a lot of old ladies called the police. Gordon wasn't bothered, however. To him, they needed to know their place. It was rather quiet when Gordon arrived at Tidmouth. He tried to blow his whistle, but nothing seemed to happen. He tried again. Still nothing. "What's wrong with my whistle?" he bellowed. His driver and fireman were not happy, and once they had stopped at the station, they came over to speak to him. But to Gordon, they spoke so quietly, he couldn't make out a word that they were saying. "Would you speak up?" the big engine demanded. "I can't hear a word you're saying." The driver and fireman looked at each other, but were smiling and shaking their heads. This only confused Gordon and made him even more cross. "Is this some kind of a joke?" he snapped, even louder than before. His crew just walked away, leaving Gordon on the platform, baffled. Soon, a small blue tank engine, whose name was Ethan, was called to move Gordon to the sidings. Another engine took over Gordon's train, much to his annoyance. He shouted at everyone as loud as they could, but no one seemed to answer him. Gordon sat on his siding for quite a long time. As time went on, Gordon noticed that it became less and less quiet. You could hear the sounds of Ethan shouting about the yards, ships coming in and out of the harbour nearby, and the sounds of engines puffing in and out of the station. He was rather confused, but also fascinated. How come he had never noticed this before? At that moment, Mr. Hat, the fat director, as he was known back then, arrived. "Feeling better, Gordon?" he asked. I suppose so, sir," Gordon muttered. "But, how come everyone was ignoring me earlier?" The fat director looked stern. "It's simple, Gordon. You couldn't hear anyone because you temporarily lost your hearing." Gordon blinked, confused. "It's because of all the whistling that you were doing," the fat director continued. "That whistle of yours is shrill and loud, and with you blowing it so much, no wonder you went and lost your hearing." Gordon was surprised and rather embarrassed. "This cannot carry on," the fat director told him. "I'm sending you to the works to have a new whistle fitted. This one is nowhere near as shrill or high-pitched, so we can avoid having incidents like this in the future." "A new whistle?" cried Gordon. "But sir, really useful engines, don't argue." And on that note, the fat director walked away, leaving a rather upset Gordon behind. Gordon soon had his new whistle fitted. It was much deeper compared to his old one, and it made more of a boop boop sound. The other engines teased him at first, but Gordon didn't mind. The whole new whistle situation quickly proved to not be the punishment the fat director thought it would be, as Gordon ended up liking this whistle even more than his old one. "Poop poop, make way for the express."